Greetings, YouTube. Let's talk about the minimum wage. When this idea was first put forth in 1933, the idea was that you would set a minimum amount of pay that would allow a single person to cover all of their expenses, support a family, buy a home, and retire. That would be the goal. But that was, of course, quickly co-opted by people that could bribe the government and bribe politicians. And so it became something else. It became this minimum standard that we can then dismiss as unskilled labor. There is no such thing as unskilled labor. I can guarantee you, if I took you to my job, you would not be able to run one of my machines. And there are people who consider running a press to be nothing more than a button-pushing monkey. That you are unskilled labor. But I can guarantee you that you would have a miserable first day, and you may just walk away if I just threw you at a press and said, hey, go ahead and run that. The red book's right there. Go ahead and read it and tell you how to run it. Because you will have no idea what you're doing. How did I learn? Because people taught me. And then I watched and I listened. Because some of the people that taught me weren't very good at it. And some of the people were just not engaged in the process and they didn't train me at all. And then some would say they were doing one thing while doing another, sometimes intentionally and sometimes unconsciously. It was quite humorous when I caught them doing something subconsciously. I didn't point it out. I didn't need to start an argument. But the reality is, of course, that minimum wage today in the United States, which is $7.25, it's an abomination. I don't think there's any other way to describe it. It's a disgrace. There is nowhere in America that you can rent a single unit way to live, a place to live, a single apartment for minimum wage. And if your dwelling is supposed to, I think it's supposed to cost a third of your pay. At one time when I think it was a quarter when I was younger. Now it's supposed to be considered a third of your pay. So the average rent in America is like $1,500. Depending on where you live, of course, that's going to go up and down. I think around here it's around 1,000, 1,200, something like that. I'm not positive. I pay like a little over $1,200 a month for my mortgage. And it's the beauty of buying a house during the real estate crash back in when the bubble burst, foreclosure. If you're gonna have that level of rent, you're going to be needing to be making $36 an hour. How many jobs in America pay people $36 an hour to start? How many? I don't think of any off the top of my head, at least not starting pay. My company starts you at like $13 an hour, which is pathetic, but it's almost twice the minimum wage. And in a real world, I'd be making about 35, but I don't. If minimum wage had kept track with productivity, it'd be $23 an hour now. And effectively today, a person making minimum wage makes less money than that person at the time in the past did, because it hasn't kept track with inflation. In my state, the minimum wage is the actual federal minimum wage. We're the only state in New England that has that. All the other states have raised their minimum wage up to at least $10 an hour, and that is still pathetic. I know people are fighting, fighting for 15, and that's great. Make it 15, but it should be 15, and then it should go up $2 an hour every year until it hits 23. And then it should be pinned to inflation. And then we'd finally have a living wage. Not a thriving wage even, but just a bare minimum floor where people would have enough to feed themselves and cover their medical costs. Because in America, we're barbarians and don't have universal health care. They'd be able to make sure their kids had everything they need to go to school with. And they had heat and clothing. And yes, this makes America sound like an undeveloped country for a reason. Because we have turned ourselves into a dystopian nightmare because we allow the billionaires at the top to bribe the politicians who are in the middle to shit on all the rest of us. So minimum wage means nothing today. It's a joke. And if you will excuse me for the for ripping off the meme, it's a killing joke.